Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Al-Fadi, and we're going to continue with our discussions about the divine Son of Man in the book of Daniel. We've demonstrated so far that divine Son of Man is a person who comes from the Davidic line. He is perceived to be the Messiah according to the Jewish thought, and Jesus is that person. And last episode, we demonstrated that Jesus indeed applied the Son of Man to himself in a divine way. Last time we talked about, in closing of the previous episode, we talked about the incident that took place in the book of the Gospel of Mark, chapter 2, about the paralytic. I'm going to repeat one more time here as a reminder what happened. The paralyzed man was brought down through the roof. Jesus looked at him and his friend and says, "Seeing their faith, said to the paralytic, 'Son, your sins are forgiven.'" That's in Mark 2:5. Then he proceeded to explain why he had the ability to do so. He says he is doing so that you may know that the Son of Man, notice, the Son of Man has authority on earth. So he's talking about who? He's talking about the Son of Man. The Son of Man has what? Has authority where? On earth, which indicates what? That just as in heaven, the Son of Man has that authority, he also has it on earth. To do what? Has authority to forgive sins. So the Pharisees were troubled by this. Why were they troubled? For next verse will indicate. Because in the Old Testament, for instance, it teaches that only Yahweh, God, has that ability to forgive sins. Here's an example. Psalm 103, verses 2-3. "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget none of his benefits, who pardons all your iniquities, who heals all your diseases." That's amazing, because Psalm 103 talks about two things, that your iniquities or sins are forgiven by Yahweh, and your diseases are healed by him. And Jesus demonstrated both in that incident in Mark chapter 2, verses 1-12, when he forgave the sins of the paralytic man and healed him from his diseases. So it's obvious that when Jesus says, he did that so that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth, meaning just like I had it in heaven, God in heaven, basically, I have it on earth also do the same thing. Heal him from iniquity, from diseases, and pardon his sins. Now, we'll continue with the application of Jesus' title, Son of Man, to himself in his earthly ministry. One of the things that Jesus also was doing is healing on the Sabbath, and the Pharisees were complaining about that. So, for instance, in Mark 2, verse 28, it says, "So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." Wow! Only God is Lord of the Sabbath. For instance, in Exodus chapter 20, when God gave the 10 Commandments, look what he said about the Sabbath. He says, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work." Right? And then in verse 10, "But the seventh day is a Sabbath of the Lord your God." Who is the Lord of the Sabbath? Yahweh, your God, is the Lord of the Sabbath. But Jesus told them that he is the Lord of that Sabbath. In John 5:16, Jesus healed someone during the Sabbath. And we read the following. "For this reason, the Jews were persecuting Jesus because he was doing these things on the Sabbath." They were complaining, basically, that Jesus was doing this on the Sabbath. And as a result of this, we basically see what Jesus' response was in John 5:17. "But he answered them, 'My Father,'" meaning God, "'my Father is working until now, and I myself am working.'" Wow, what a comparison here. Did the Jews get it? Absolutely. Look what happened in verse 18. "For this reason, therefore, the Jews were seeking all the more to kill him, because he not only was breaking the Sabbath, but also was calling God his own Father." Alarm. Watch what that means. "Making himself equal with God." Equal with God. So the Son of God means also that Jesus is equal to God, and Jesus in his humanity was speaking here as well. So all that to say that Jesus obviously demonstrated that in his own humanity, he is also divine. Until we meet again, for next time, have a blessed day. Thank you for watching. Please like our video, and we encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Sira International. And be sure also to click the bell so that you receive notifications whenever we upload new videos into the channel. And finally, I like to prayerfully encourage you to become a patron through Patreon. Your giving is much needed and will enable us to produce more and more of videos like this so that we can publish them on a weekly basis. So thank you in advance.